Greetings, Old World Explorers. In this video, Ashley from Freya, are going to be taking a look at a file of what we think is evidence of a past cataclysm here. Ashley, welcome to the channel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on. Enjoyed our conversation so far.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into the visuals. We're going to sort of be bouncing around all over the place. I do try to have the locations on these, but I don't have all of them. This is in Cornwall, England. So I think we're both. I reached out to you, Ashley, because I think we're both seeing similar things. We're looking at some evidence of some sort of massive cataclysm that occurred here, and there's all sorts of visual evidence to suggest that, and then we're going to be going through that right now. So, what do you think of this structure? Do you think it was built that way?
No. Yeah, it looks like the bricks just melted together and ballooned out and became like blobs, and
yes.
you can still see the shape. You know, the bottom. That was probably a doorway there in the middle, I would think, that closed in, or an archway that closed in.
And then
that's crazy, isn't it?
And you're starting to see closer to what we might call a brick pattern up here. You can see the hard 90s on some of these, right?
Yep.
So this one is very compelling evidence to suggest that something is not right with the narrative, because they'll tell us that these were obviously placed on these boulders. This doesn't look stable whatsoever to be holding up a structure like that. Totally irrational why you would build in such a manner.
Yeah, the top part of that smallest rock on the right, you can see where if they built it that way, they would have to fit and like attach the stones and the brick. Yeah, they would have to attach it with epoxy, or I don't even know how you would do that to make the rocks.
Oh, I think they had an epoxy resin a couple hundred years ago, actually, when this was built. So I think that's accounted for in the conventional historical narrative. So.
And it's still standing.
It's amazing, isn't it? Right? Yeah. It's yeah. This is it from another angle.
What the hell? Look at that. And you can see the rocks bulging out on the tower part too, down below. Here? And the closed in archway. Yeah, and there's a closed in archway. The archway by the
See, I would have hated to have been the laborer that had to make sure that rock stands up while you're building bricks around it.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and you mentioned too that at first you didn't think you remembered where this was at, but the point is it doesn't really matter where it's at, because these are everywhere. This kind of crazy evidence of this cataclysm is everywhere. So at a certain point, it's irrelevant where the location of some of these are.
Yeah, you start to see it everywhere, and you start to realize that this was a realm-wide occurrence. Yeah, Arizona. This is down in the States. That this is definitely looking like it's been melted. This, you
like can see how. It was like fizzling.
And you can see the walls. What were walls? And this is standing a little bit higher, but here it looks like it was almost melted down into nothing.
Yeah. What did? Yeah.
Very interesting. It's interesting that you have those type of ruins in that region of the States as well, because it really does not fit any of the historical narrative we're given. If I told you this was in Afghanistan maybe, or Iran or something like that, you might say, oh, okay, well, 500 years ago, yeah, this just looks like weathering over time. But it's in Arizona, so it's...
Yeah, there's a lot around here that are in the U.S., and they'll say it was like Native Americans built it, Native Americans carved into this mountain, or they added brick to this cave. It was the natives that did it, and it doesn't add up.
No, it's a very thin backstory, and it's there's holes, massive holes in that narrative, and that's what we're here to do, right? Poke a few more holes and get people questioning the reality that we find ourselves in.
Look at that. That looks a lot like the ones I kind of focus on, or the ones that have like the boulders that look like they're crawling up the side. And look how massive that kid is. So small compared to that massive. Yeah, and you can see it going up the wall where it's becoming brick right there. Yeah, where you're
right here. Let's go a little bit closer, and you can see how this part and this part are very similar. Just change the state of the matter, maybe changed just slightly enough, but we can still see that. Yeah, that block work. And if I look a little bit higher, and you can even see as you go, oh, there's some red brick around the window openings here, and then here. And they'll tell us that this was a slit for arrows to defend the fortress.
For weapons, put weapons through.
So I assume that this slit maybe was for a wider diameter arrow.
Yeah, that's for a sword. That's for a sword. So they come up the side.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? But it is interesting to see the different states of, the different types of what we call building materials, but different types of evidence from the ground up here. And again, you do see it from the ground up on a lot of this, right?
Yeah, so typically, yeah.
Fried circuit board is sort of how I describe it a lot of the times. It's something happened, electrification possibly. It's all speculation, so we don't know, right? But yeah. I think Spain. I think this is where we're looking. Castello, what we just looked at was Spain. But this is, again, if I were to build here, if I had somebody tell me I was going to have to build a wall on this cliff.
Well, you have to match the color of the rock too, so it's nice and
has to be taken from a quarry that has the same color of stone as.
Yeah.
And then actually on the back end here, we're getting into red brick again. It's hard to see. You can see the red again, right? So. And then what's the point of this opening? How do you logically explain? I want to, throw in the comments logically. If you have a logical answer for what we're seeing and you think we're way out in left field, let me know your explanation for why this was built and how it was built in such a manner. I'd like to hear it. Let's keep going. I think it's in Spain again still. This is a nice, heavily fortified structure. Nobody's going to attack you in that home, right? And then maybe this is like a greenhouse. You have like a garden. It's because it's open, right? Maybe you're growing a few things here, and you have to scale the cliff or around the back to get to the greenhouse.
Yeah, sure. No, they probably put it there to impress everybody. Show them that they could do it.
You think so? Just an arrogance thing, right? Just to show you how good a builder they are. You can see the horizontal lines here, even as we go down. Reminding me of Greece, some of the monasteries in Greece as well, having this type of look. We might see them in this presentation. This file is sort of from all over the place, so I think it's.
Oh, look at that one.
Yeah. Still in Spain. This is actually really good. Really good.
That's a really good one, and you can see the brick going down on the right side. No, over on the right, on the other side of the boulder. Yeah.
Yeah, down here. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense that it would.
And then, not at all. This looking just like if you've ever put a plastic garbage can too close to a fire, or something made of plastic, and you notice that this face of it starts to get deformed. This is that's what this is. Yeah, this is what this part here reminds me of. Like it's just started to get melt. It's just started to become mountain, but then it stopped. And then this is what was built upon after, because the structure was still there. Probably structure all in here as well. Oftentimes you'll see openings lower down.
Yeah, it looks like you can see brick lines on the one behind the rock behind it, the mountain behind it.
Here.
Yeah, down. Oh, never mind. It's a tree.
well here you can see horizontal lines as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, and completely illogical as to why you would build fresh in such a manner, just like this one. Right, this is in Zafra, Spain.
Melted ice cream.
Actually, I saw a structure, I think it was, I don't know the state. I did a video on the Four Corners, almost identical to this right here. Arizona, in the States, New Mexico, the Four Corners where the 4 states meet.
Of just the, like a tower like that?
A tower like that on a rock like that, yeah.
Oh, really?
Identical. Absolutely, yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so
there's so many. I don't know if I could ever see them all.
Not possible. There's so much everywhere you look, right? And that's the fun part about this research is if you open your eyes to the possibility and you end up going for a hike and you look at a rock wall and you're wondering, those look like some very, very horizontal lines. Makes me wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. It's everywhere. I mean, like, I mentioned in my presentation, but I'm in a really small little Texas town, and our courthouse, like I've looked up the history about the courthouse, and it seems clear to me that it's like an old world structure. It's just it's simple because the rest of it's gone, but you can tell it's the red brick. The silhouette looks like an old world, and it's got a basement. And I've heard it's got 3 basements, but I can't go down 3. They just have one that we're allowed
You've
to
heard
go
it.
into.
Wow, you've heard it goes 3 levels down.
Yeah, and there's other little buildings around the square. But the point of me bringing this up is that I think most places they kind of build the city around the old world structures, and in ours we just have the one little crummy, little red brick cube basically with some columns, and so that's the center of the town. But you see it for all. The bigger the town, usually the more impressive the structures, because more people kind of swarm there, to fill in around the old world remains.
The American courthouses are mind blowing. Actually, I have a website that shows them all, and a lot of them have been torn down, but really amazing structures. The American courthouses.
Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah.
Get that. This looks like the rocks on the Sicker Point with the Hutton.
Explain that a little bit.
So go ahead.
Well, so you're talking about, we were talking before we started recording about how geology came to be, basically. We're talking about James Hutton, the Scottish geologist, the father of geology.
Yes, and so he was in the late 1700s. He basically came up with he called it gradualism, but basically that things take a long time. Over a long amount of time, you can have these kind of rock formations because it builds and builds and builds, and you get pressure, and then it creates the rocks that we see. And there's a beach there at Edinburgh called Sicker Point, and you see rocks like this, but they're going 2 different ways. And anyway, his explanation for it is, that the ocean basically brought in sediment, and it piled up, and it had to take that. Basically, the Earth was much, much older than previously thought, which the previous ideas was that it was around 6,000 years old. And catastrophism was what they believed, which is massive catastrophes formed the geology of the Earth. So anyway, but this looks like the Sicker Point rock, so it makes you wonder, like, is the part of the building that would have been connected to that just gone, and we're just seeing these, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so he was a Royal Society type, right? So we have to put all our faith and trust in what he says, because he's very highly educated.
Yeah, he influenced Darwin. That's where we got, Darwinism was it was born out of that.
And he was basically the early stages of eliminating the whole catastrophism concept, right? Because uniformitarianism, which is what we believe today to be how the world formed, was basically pushed to the point where catastrophism was marginalized and cast out of conventional thought. Something like that.
Yeah, and then you had Charles Lyell, who came in the mid 1800s, which is whenever we see a lot of suspicious behavior with the history making, and the buildings are now built, early 1900s, most of them are built. And then, so in the mid 1800s is, I guess, mid 1800s to early 1900s, whenever they claim a lot of these structures that are built in places that aren't Europe, and they claim they built them. But Christopher Lyell was basically a lawyer turned geologist. And so he's the one that really got it stapled in, the whole uniformitarianism. And that was during the mid 1800s. So, and we're taught that today. That's what I was taught,
Yeah. So Loyal was a lawyer, or Lyell was a liar?
Yeah, both. Yeah, I wondered about there's like a word play.
Sure. Yeah. I like to play around a little bit with this stuff, because they play around with us. So I play back. This you can come a little closer. You can actually see the blockwork here, right?
Yeah.
Just slight evidence, and then this is all just like you wouldn't build with these round. You want to build with something that you can stack.
Yeah, consistency, like so you can predict how big and tall and wide you want consistency there. And also the windows. I mean, surely those windows looked the way the other ones do and the ones do on the other tower, but it's like they had heat expansion took place, and it caused the bricks to squeeze, and it shrunk those windows into little slits.
Which what will be called was, again, for defense.
Right? Yeah.
This very similar. Again, you can see the red coming down here. This is in Scotland, so not far from. And this is very convincing as far as I'm concerned. You can see the brickwork here, or the blockwork, whatever you want to call it, and then how it just transforms into these horizontal lines. Look here, right down here. You can see
you can see the
geology, man-made. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, the way the bricks, I think they probably were red bricks. I don't think they did the corner with red bricks, and they got these like pancakey stones to try to fit to make this stable structure. It's like, yeah, they just pancaked and they kind of pushed out, you know, the whenever they pancaked from the whatever this X factor was that caused this cataclysm. It's like it smushed them,
Yeah,
popped them out.
and it takes the carbon. Is that the red part? The carbon
Yeah, the
out of
carbon
the
14, right?
yeah, and
It cooked it. Yeah, cooked it out.
possibly maybe because these parts had a coating. You know, you often see these with like a polymer type of coating around the windows and down the corners of the buildings. So maybe they had a little more protection from the elements, where these maybe were red brick with just faced red brick. This is obviously pure speculation, but I'm just thinking of a lot of the buildings I've seen where what we think of as a different stone down the corners and around the windows is often just covered red brick with some sort of cement coating. I've seen that a lot too.
I wonder too, because a lot of times these like destroyed buildings, these that show tons of damage, the corner will have the red brick will be intact, and the stuff, you know, the walls and stuff will look all messed up. And I wonder if the current that was, if it was a circuit board type of thing that happened, the current like ran through the red brick, and so you have a big flat area, the wall, that the current the energy could move through, and so it fried that. But whenever it got to the corner, the current wasn't as smooth a transition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it couldn't flow through it.
Maybe. Yeah, so it kind of, it didn't flow through it as smoothly, I guess, as a flat area would, that the current could just move freely. But then you have a corner, so it kind of stopped a bit, and I think that with the windows and the archways too, a lot of times they're the ones that are still remaining in the rest of the building, like whenever you have like a pocket of survival. And the archway, I think, is because it's open, so that electric current or whatever couldn't jump from this wall to this wall, and so it had a break basically in the.
So it wasn't able to continue the charge that it was carrying.
Yes, right.
Location.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Interesting.
That's pretty good too, this one here. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true, I've just I don't know that much about it, but the carbon 14, if there's still some carbon 14, like the plants will grow on the carbon 14, like they can live on the carbon 14, but once that carbon is cooked out and you have this gray stone, you can't get anything to grow on it, and that's why you'll have these little pockets on these structures that'll have greenery growing in certain little
tree
pockets.
Up top. Yeah, even sometimes a tree in a strange spot. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting.
You can see that like flowing.
Yeah, we saw this from the other angle there. This would be that one in Spain again. Interesting, they have to put the door in here like this. It's like, how was it originally intended? Right? I don't know if anyone watching this, if you look at something like this, well, how do you explain it? Do you really think they built this on top of a natural outcropping? Can you see how these lines here sort of flow down from the structure itself? Like, to me, to my eye at this point, it's quite obvious, but I mean, to a lot of people, it's difficult to fathom. So we have to open up our minds a little bit and to the possibility that maybe we don't know the past as well as we think we do. Maybe we have been deceived. Right?
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that these are not anomalies. This isn't like there just happens to be a few of these kind of buildings that we found pictures of to show you. I mean, anyone, you can just look at ancient ruins or old castle, like you can use all these different search terms and you'll start coming across these things are everywhere. They're not anomalies. And so that's why a lot of times we just, me anyway, I'll forget exactly what location all of them are from, because there's just so many of them. It gets to a point where it can't be explained away by they just built there. They just built on this impossible bumpy, lumpy cliff wall,
There's too much evidence, and that's why people like you and I think have dug so much and amassed these large files on these locations, right? Because one piece of evidence isn't enough. Okay, you can explain that away. A handful is not enough, but when you start to see them in every country, all over the world, then you really have to start asking questions, right? And this is again in Scotland. That's similar. It might be the same structure from the backside, but you see the arch here in the cliff.
Yeah,
it's built right into the cliff.
You can see the transition from the on those two big towers in the center. You can see the transition from the brick into smooth. They would have to have sanded it to smooth it out to make that transition. And it's the same color, like it's the same material. It's a pattern that we notice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're jumping over to Nevada right now. Cathedral Canyon in Nevada. I'd also like to encourage people to explore their regions with new eyes, if you will, if you care to, if you're into this stuff. It's everywhere. You'll find it everywhere. So you're in Nevada, check these types of places out. You know, like just a little bit of evidence for us, not much. So where's the logic in building this? They're going to say this is some sort of shrine, maybe, and they put a little statue in there.
You can almost see like maybe there were columns or something on the right there where the lines, and on the other side, you know, the little section there with the. But yeah, either way, even if it's just those two little pockets, like that's primitive people place those stones in there under that big blobby.
For what reason?
Yeah, if it's a sacrifice, it's always it's a ritualistic, you know, sacrifice.
Silly.
Yeah.
I keep bringing this one up. This one really is pretty crazy though, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's check out South America now. Peru. Now the red paintings I think are a diversion. I think almost all cave art and all that kind of stuff is actually in the very early days of when they were finding these cave paintings, they were openly known as Darwinist forgeries.
Oh, really?
To distort the historical narrative. Now they're just accepted as this is what they did 200-300 years ago. But I mean, this looks like a child drew on all this to distract you from what you're actually seeing here.
Yeah,
to my eye.
Yeah, and I think they would also explain that these little carvings that are in the side, they're going to say that those same natives did that. Those same natives did the carving, added this weird brickwork or carved it to look like it's got brickwork, and then they also drew on it. But it's clearly, if that's their artistic capability is these little doodles, they wouldn't be able to such a feat into this kind of rock, like carve into that kind of rock. You know what I mean? Like they.
Yeah, it's totally illogical. You can see how what we might call rock curtaining. Like you can see the dripping going on that gray look. You'll see this in a lot of places. You can see the horizontal lines right here. Right?
Yeah, it's pancake down. Do you think that gray is like from the like concrete or plaster or something they put on the? Yeah, you see that a lot. It's like it's melting, you know.
A coating. Yeah, just like wax would melt at a high temperature over top of it. Yeah, this is the same area, Chacapoyos in Peru. I don't know why on earth you would ever build a wall directly into a cliff.
Or right next to it, yeah, coming out of nowhere, a wall to nowhere.
It makes zero sense, right? Like this is a sheer cliff down in Peru, and you've got the evidence or the remains of some sort of structure. Absolutely absurd historical narrative. There's some more evidence for you.
Look at that. Yeah, how would they ever get like very strong backpacks with brick that have to scale it up? You know?
Yeah, very strong people, of course, right? Like able to do this. And why wouldn't you want to live here? I'm sure there are wild animals that you'd have to protect your children from. So you're going to build a dwelling on a cliff because that's not dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? You can see here. You could see
it's all over. Yeah.
To our conventional thought, this is obviously man-made, right? You got a window opening. This obviously man-made? Where do we draw the line? This is obviously man-made. What about up here? Where do we draw the line?
Yeah, there's not a line. It was all one big building that massive cataclysm took place and it transformed it. It's just deformed. It's a very destroyed building.
Pocket of survival.
Pocket of survival. You can see the little archway too down there.
With the red around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The red.
Very interesting. Channel Islands.
I love the ones like this. These are like my favorite type of destruction that we see.
Yeah.
It's like bubbling out.
Yeah. I definitely like to point out when you see this type of stonework is what I think what Ashley and I are both seeing is what's left over from conventional brickwork. Yeah, and you do
damaged.
see this. Yeah, you see this in a lot of places. You see it in old churches, things like that. Um, so evidence of some sort of destruction, I think. Look at this one
Yeah.
down here too. You can hardly tell that that's man-made, but you can tell it's a semicircle.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I think those bricks that you were just the stones you were pointing out up there, they would have been the exact same type of brick that we see next to it. Like you wouldn't build like that and add stones, once you build, if you have all this kind of brick, why would you add stone? You
So
know?
we talked earlier, logic, right? Logic has to come
Hmm.
into play a little bit, like simple logic. Why would you do that? And that's what we're trying to employ here as we look at these things. It's like it's completely illogical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still the Channel Islands.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. And there's
It's like it
yes,
became liquid below it.
yes, but maintain the brick lines or the block.
Yeah.
Like you can see how it works its way up here and just stopped. And then again, we talked about around the openings. We've got some. Now people will try to say, well, somebody renovated that opening and put brick in there to finish it off. That's sure, I guess, but to me that's less logical than what we're.
And
here.
they added windows. They added glass windows too on the top 3 windows.
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody found the structure obviously and said, "Wow, that's a nice getaway," and it's a reclaiming of the realm, right? A resetting of the realm. Yeah, it's amazing.
Look at that.
On to France, yeah, Chateau Marmont, France, or Montfort, Chateau Montfort. Yeah, like I don't know why the heck would you ever want to build on an edge like this?
Yeah, and there's a door. There's a door right there on the backside on the cliff, where you were just pointing. Right, I go up. Yeah, go up. There's a door on the back of that wall. Like
Here?
there's a door, and you just on the actual building, on the wall. There's a door. You see it? Can you see my finger? Go up. Right there. There's a door right there.
So a door to nowhere?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what it looked like. Maybe it's a window. Maybe it's a window.
Okay, yeah. It's no, it doesn't make sense. It certainly wasn't originally built like this. And look, like it's amazing. Like the craftsmanship
beautiful.
is right, and you got your clamshell style balcony, which I love to see. Old world clamshell style balcony. Yeah, pretty cool. I don't know if you can hear in the background. There's a game of foosball going on back there, but that's okay.
It's okay. My brother-in-law's mowing, so I didn't know earlier if you could hear a mower, but I'm right by the window.
It all adds to the ambiance of the video. Right?
Yeah.
This is strange, the coloring here.
Yeah, I think oh, go ahead.
No, again in France, I'm just going to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, do you think that red's probably from the carbon-14 from the
very possible
from the red bricks?
Well, maybe they'll tell us it's an algae of some sort.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I think it's all on the table for sure.
It's totally mangled, like this whole, all of it. You can see, it's boulder, it's all chunky rock, and then it's brick, and then it's boulder. Like, yeah, as you went around, you could see it's just totally mangled, like completely destroyed. Like on the other side, you can see it.
It's quite obvious. If you have an eye for it, I think it becomes quite obvious. So I think we're trying to encourage people to maybe look at the world through a different lens, right? Because the lens that we've been given does not explain anything sufficiently. I think leaves too many questions. So this reminds me of the scene, I think, from what is it, to the Jim Carrey movie where they tell them there's nothing left to explore. It's like there's so much more to explore.
Yeah.
They just sort of close those pathways down. So let's open those pathways back up.
Man, that's crazy looking. That in the transition on the rounded, the column, it's not a column, but the rounded one, you can actually see where it goes down. The transition, the one right next to it. Right next to it this way.
Here,
yeah, you can see that transition.
Yeah. You know what we need?
Closed.
StreamYard needs to be able to have two mouses.
Yeah.
I gotta see if that's an option. Let's see if we can get that going. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. This is in Chepstow, Wales. It's it makes absolutely no sense. You can see how this is just sort of mudded away. Look at how muddy the river is here, right? Like, it's pretty funny. Of course, some natural formations for you. I think it's in South America. I always find these interesting too. This, like, you see how cubical
Yeah,
these are.
makes you
It's
wonder.
covered in jungle, right? And then you hear the stories in places like the Amazon that they do the LiDAR investigations, and they find out that the entire forest floor, jungle floor, is structure. Like we're hearing more and more of that as time moves forward, and we have the technology to see through the foliage, you know, with I think it's LiDAR. I think that's what they use for that. So much to uncover. It makes me think of also like Cambodia, Cambodia area, and how they bombed that place into oblivion in the 70s. Yet we still have so much left over from that region. I suspect the entire landscape there was jungle covered, you know, structure.
Yeah, they do that. I mean, the first thing they did whenever they went into the Middle East was, blow up tons of the structures, and they went into and that's like the cradle of humanity. Like the oldest known civilization was in that region, and they go there and destroy the buildings and destroy the sculptures. So a lot of these wars, I think they use them in a lot of ways. But I think destroying this old world evidence is one of their goals as well, you know.
What about the melting of all the bells and all of that stuff in World War II, right? The old you had to melt all sorts of steel for the war cause, and I think that was direct cover up, directly erasing our past. But we're a species with amnesia. We have no idea, and we think we know.
Total collective amnesia for sure.
Yeah.
And that's why too, I think I brought up before, but I think the blood memory is like a real thing. Like there's something about it that resonates with us, and that's why looking at these old buildings, I think they feel so special. It resonates with us, and we have a connection to them, but we've been severed from our like conscious memory of it, you know.
Yeah, and
so
then
just trying to figure it out.
They've also put a filter in our consciousness to not look at this. We just need to remove the filter and open up to it, and don't be afraid of not knowing. We can't be afraid of not knowing, because we don't know.
You're never going to know. You never can know everything, but
it's certainly worth exploring, and there's so many anomalies that don't fit what we're told about history. So that's why I do what I do, and it sounds like that's why you're doing it too, right? Because you see something, and we want to share this. That's why we're on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
We're trying to figure it out, and the more people we have looking into it, then the closer we'll get to try to getting a clearer picture, you know. And it just seems like juicy news too. I mean, that's basically why I made my YouTube in that first video, is I'm watching a bunch of people that are touching on these topics, but they're not seeing this, and it's just like, I need to show them, like, this is juicy. This is like, you know, it's undeniable once you see it, and it's exciting, because it's like, this is a big story. This is a big news, you know.
I want to share what I'm seeing. I want more people to see. That's why I started my channel, you know. And I really enjoy the interaction. So if you're enjoying this video and watching that, and you have something to say about your region or anything, throw it in the comments. Let's keep the conversation alive, and that's how we do it, right? It's great to watch the video, but get involved too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I say this to my viewers too, if you want to jump in on a presentation, if you have a file you want to share, I'm open to it. Just email me, and let's get it going. Let's get it out there.
Yeah.
Right. This isn't about any sort of financial gain or any stupid thing like that. This is to do with getting closer to the truth. That's what we're here for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look at this. Czech Republic.
Wow.
I don't know. Like, where's is that red brick in there? Where's the line? Where do we draw the line?
And there's this, that statue.
I love it. It really is amazing, isn't it? It's
jeez.
Yeah.
Man, look at that rock curtain. It's like flowing, melting over the top.
Yeah, and amazing that this survived in this manner, you know.
Man.
Like, who laid the bricks in behind this rock curtain? You know, if we're going with conventional history here, it must have used a small child to squeeze in there. Maybe they did it from the inside. They did it from the inside.
That one, I guess they laid bricks on top of that boulder for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, because they wanted to fortify the top here because there was an invading army that they had to. And then, of course, down here they had slits for arrows in case anyone came near.
Jeez.
There it is from a little.
Look at that.
Not the same. I don't think it is the same structure, but it's the same location. But yeah.
The other end or something maybe.
Yeah.
That big opening was probably like a grand hall or something, you know. And it didn't close up.
Very very interesting shape. This. I really wish I had this type of stuff nearby me. I'd be all over it.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah. You see this a lot in that area. I did a video on that border between France and Germany and I think Czech. And this type of damage, particularly in this area, I find very interesting. You know.
I wonder, you know how you'll see like patterns of the type of damage depending on the area it's in. I wonder if it's the type of materials that they used. Whatever this cataclysm was, it caused some kind of reaction to the way that it melted or got destroyed kind of consistently in one area because maybe they were using certain type of materials in that region as opposed to another area where they had different materials. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, it's all on the table and it's different. Visually, it looks different in different areas. Like, and then as you do this type of research, you notice the regional differences for sure. Yeah, this would be in Yemen.
And you can see like the sections, what would have been sections of buildings that, you know, sections of the building.
Yeah.
Just squished down.
And you have to wonder, you can even actually see a little line in there.
Man. Oh, yeah.
And then this survives. And yeah, this is regional for sure. Middle East area, or Yemen. You see some of this in places like Iran. Iraq, I don't know because it's all been obliterated.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's the same, right?
Yep.
Don't know where this is, but that's interesting.
It's out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Crown. It looks like a crown on a big boulder. Right?
Man, and the wall behind it.
No. Why on earth would you build that way? Right?
Well, you wouldn't.
Wild animals, they'll say. Wild animals.
No, yeah, of course.
I wanted to show you some of what I found in India too. Well, I'll show you one more. Yeah. This is getting to. Oh, it almost looks like
Cappadocia or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is, but I'm just thinking the type of melt, the style of melt, where it's like a mud and like rocks all sort of fused into some sort of hard shell paste type of thing. I don't know.
I'm sure that this one they probably say they carved it. I would guess.
Sure.
But look how the edges are like rounded. It's got a different
And you can see the red coming out here still. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, that texture's crazy.
Yeah, and it's different, right? So there are differences, regional differences to the way that this cataclysm, I think, impacted the area.
Yeah, it seems like it's like a heat behavior, like some kind of heat, but it could have been like a liquefaction or some kind of vibrational, like the actual molecules just became unstable, you know? And the form just changed.
Like electrification, right? I mean, if everything is sort of electric, a changing of the molecular structure, possibly.
Yeah.
I do want to show. I do have a file in India. Let me pull that up here. Yeah, I think you'll find it interesting. I'll just close this, and then I'll root around. So I've poked around in a lot of different countries and tried to pull files. And you know how I find a lot of these too is just going around on Google Maps, and then you just click in on somebody uploaded 10 pictures from their hike or whatever it might be, and that's where I get a lot of these a lot of my pictures from. Is just
that sounds like a fun way to do it. I usually which I don't really use Google Maps really at all, but so there's a lawnmower. I don't know if you can hear it, but I usually just start with like ruins, you know, or just pick an area that I'm interested in, like Turkey. You can just go to Turkey and look at old structures forever and find all kinds of ruins. And Turkey is just like a gold mine for.
It's crazy. Yeah, I have a massive Turkey file. So we should do these and even just like zone in on a region, you know.
Yeah.
Like try to compartmentalize the videos in some fashion so people can.
Yeah, so not just all over the place.
Because I think it is overwhelming sometimes when you're showing all this. People are just like, whoa. If you're not into this research and you're just getting introduced to it, it can be very overwhelming, right? But some of the stuff I found in India is very interesting too. It has a bit of
India. Yeah. There's Ellora. Have you looked into the Ellora caves in India?
Probably. I don't know if I know them by name.
But, I've got a folder on that. But anyway, it's in India and it's extremely impressive. Massive complex of caves that were carved into rock.
Is it like this style of carving? Like
yeah, it's this dark rock like this that looks hard as shit, you know, like it doesn't look like sand rock. Yeah, it looks like temples, like the temples that we see in India that have the domes and everything. It looks like that, and it has elephants and little figures and all kinds of detailing carved all over it.
So I know it quite well, and through my research in India, I found at least a dozen locations like this that we're looking at here, very similar to that. Not as elaborate. That's probably like the showpiece, the Ellora one, but they're everywhere. It's amazing actually how many there are.
Yeah, I've got a few that I put in my presentation that were from India, but they looked very similar. That same kind of style where you have like kind of a tannish stone underneath the black, like darkened stone on top.
There's some of this gets really intense in India. So we have like you have these massive forts.
Yeah.
They seem to call a mountain a fort, and they actually still seem to be a mountain and a fort at the same time. Like for instance,
or they'll call a mountain like Castle Rock, you know, or Castle Mountain.
Yeah. So this would be called. They'll actually call this a fort in their geography, and I'm trying to find a better example. Here's a good actually change from one to the other. This looks like maybe it's been parged with grout up to a certain point, possibly.
Yeah.
Or something's changed. Actually, no, because what do you think?
I think the what's it called? The mortar, the in between the bricks.
Yeah.
It like expanded for whatever reason. Like I don't know what. It seems like the bricks, the red bricks, or probably some kind of conduit for the electricity. And maybe with this, it kind of I don't know. Maybe the mortar in between got expanded out.
Started leaching, maybe, or
maybe something. Where it like pulled the I don't know what I'm trying to say, but this thing would have been insane. This X Factor. I mean, it's just the brick behavior. Just looking at all the different variety of brick behavior that we see over and over and over. It's hard to know exactly what happened because we don't even know. It's hard to fathom what even would cause this kind of damage, you know.
Yeah, and then the historical narrative on these locations that we're looking at here is like they built this in the 1500s as a fort, you know, protection from blah blah blah. And it's like, come on, guys, it gets old.
Yeah.
And here's another good example. So you got the cave down there, you got the fort up here, right? And look how red that is.
Yeah.
So India is riddled with this type of visual evidence. That's why I wanted to share it with you. If for some reason it struck me when I started looking into this area of the world here.
Man, like the population would have been so insanely massive. Just one of those structures, you know, they were so big, like a mountain. It's hard to fathom that like a mountain could possibly have been a building, but then you see evidence like that and it's like, well, how big was that building? Like that's we think, oh, we've got skyscrapers, you know, like nothing compared to what the old world would have looked like in full bloom before it got destroyed.
Well, and that's why I'm trying to show these, because I'm trying to find a good one. They call these forts, so they'll have a path and they'll have like a turret. This is not. I'm gonna find one here because I want to share this on this presentation. And they're really amazing.
Is this in India?
All India this file,
Okay.
yeah. Oh man.
Nice. You've got a lot of them.
I do, yeah, and the problem is I have a lot of them. So I'm having trouble finding. Here's a good one. This one will jive nicely with what we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's like crawling up. It looks like it's crawling up the side, and there's a little pocket of yeah, right there.
Opening there, that sort of leaching, that white, whatever that, like
Mm-hmm.
that. What do we call it? The mortar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like pouring. Looks like it's pouring down.
Yeah, I got a couple more here for you. This is a good stages, right? You see the brick
Mm-hmm.
wall up there. You see sort of smooth face. Maybe you call that natural. Probably not, because you're looking. And then here is like, oh, that's definitely mountain or whatever, right? So the conventional eye, let's say. So we're looking from the ground up. We're looking at some sort of heat damage, right?
Yeah, that's this kind of evidence to me. It looks like evidence that basically the brick got transformed into blocks. So then it makes me wonder if all the big megalithic structures that we're trying to figure out how they move these massive whatever ton amount stones, if it's just brick that kind of bonded together and became one block, because sometimes it'll look like Tetris pieces. These megalithic
absolutely, yeah,
will look like Tetris pieces.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
Trying to figure out, like, oh, they had to cut it like this, it's so close together you can't even put a piece of paper through it, and it's like it's just a melted building, and they bonded together in a geometric pattern to make these what we see as blocks.
Yeah, I think it's logical. It's logical, even if we can't explain the mechanism. It's logical that rather than trying to do the mental gymnastics of on the other end of it.
Yeah,
because
there's a pattern.
Yeah,
basically we see a pattern.
This is what I was getting at here. You could see the fort on top, right? You can see that's wall, right? Circular, and then you could see as it comes down, it becomes mountain, right?
Yeah.
And so this was obviously all one big structure to my eye. I don't think they came and form-fitted a wall on top of this this protrusion from the land. This was all part of that.
Yeah, I agree. Because I mean, you see stuff like that where you see part of it on top, and then you see brick further down that's not connected to anything. It's just brick that's inside the mountain, like on one wall. So there's all these signs that the building actually continued down. It was all one big building, but now it's all deformed, and so it looks like a mountain.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. So I just wanted to share a little bit of India because it has a bit of a distinct look too, right? Larger block work that looks like, and then those vast forts on the mountains. And yeah, really amazing. I've been wanting to share some of what I've found in India for a while now.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, pretty neat, right? And then the history there too is we have to remember it. So they had their British colonialism, right? That was resetting the narrative, right? This happened everywhere.
Yeah.
So we can't really stretch that far back in time anywhere really without really speculating and trying to avoid the distortion, the historical distortion that was put upon us. It's because it was everywhere, right? Whether it was British colonialism or French or Spanish, all coming from those royal circles and the Vatican and all those types of things, right? Those are the nefarious bad actors I think that we're up against as far as falsifying our history. So
yeah, sure,
we're taking it back.
That's right.
Anyway, I thought maybe we could cut it off here. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'd like to do it again if you'd be interested.
I'd love that. I'd love to do it again. I had a really good time. I feel like we should have recorded the first part too.
Yeah, I know you're right. Yeah, we'll do it next time. Maybe we'll do a live. Actually, would be good too. It's nice to get some interaction with people that are into this stuff. So
yeah, that sounds awesome.
Okay, I'll sign off for this, and thanks everyone for joining, and look for our next chat.